podcast. Yeah, the Steve Gunner podcast. You're tuned in to the Steve Gunner podcast. Get up, it's the Steve Gunner podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Steve Gunter podcast, where we discuss the steps, the strategies, and the mindset of real estate investing, tailor-made for the pro athlete. I'm your host, Steve Gunter, and it's an honor and privilege to be with you today. Look, folks, today I have a very special guest with us on today. My man, Koki Adasi, Washington, D.C. native, a Realtor Magazine 30 Under 30 award recipient. Mr. Adasi's passion in life revolves around his family, basketball, and real estate. And Koki is also the senior vice president of the Compass Sports and Entertainment Division. Koki, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today, Steve.
Man, it's such a pleasure to have you. And look, man, I got so much that I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about DC real estate. I want to talk to you about business and what you're doing there, because you're doing some really big things. And I kind of also want to get your input on these crazy NBA playoffs that we're seeing. I don't know what to think anymore. I'm just like, what happened? But before all of that, man, I got to ask you this question. DC parking. Man, what, when you gonna get that fixed, Koki? Okay.
Trust me, if I had the answer to that, I myself would save a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think the DC government loves to put, 5 different signs on like one parking space.
Yeah.
So you have absolutely no idea when you actually can park and how long you can park there. But yeah, DC parking can be tough.
Look, man, I was up there a couple of weeks ago, and you and I had the chance to get together for some coffee, and the spot that you took us to, I said, thank God there's some parking here. I mean, I don't know if it's always that way or we were just lucky that morning, but it worked out. And I said, look, I love this guy. This is great.
Right. Yeah, no, it was a good location, and the time of day, we were certainly lucky, but anywhere else in the city, you might spend half an hour driving around trying to find a parking spot. I got
it. Well, I most certainly did do that a couple of days during my trip there. And, I don't miss that, but I miss everything else about DC, which is a fabulous place, man. Just very diverse area and just wonderful people. Everybody was so nice. And I'm telling you, can't go wrong with the food. That's for sure. But look, man, I gotta, before we dig into our interview today, I gotta get your take, man. What's going on with these NBA playoffs, man? I just saw KD get swept. It looks like my man LeBron James about to get swept. It hurts my heart. What's happening? Is it the end of, the LeBron James, KD, Steph Curry era? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, Steph's not even in the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely a turning of the guards for sure in the NBA. And the nice thing that I think we're seeing right now is the young players who are stepping up, right?
Yeah.
Look at a team like Minnesota, led by a 22-year-old.
They're looking sharp too.
And looking super sharp, very strong on defense, and just beat a team that has 3 Hall of Famers on it, right? 3 guys who everybody thought you got KD, Bradley Beal, and Booker. This team's going to get to the chip, or at least get close to the chip.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to the first round. And you have OKC, another very young team.
Yep.
Matter of fact, there were several college teams who were older than OKC, right?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So very, very young team.
Wow.
Very young, starting 5, and they have a chance as well to advance far in the Western Conference. So to me, it's fun. It's great to see it, and the old guys had their time, and unfortunately, their time has passed.
Yeah. Look, it is good to see. For a long time, I remember LeBron James, every single NBA Finals, he was there. He was there, every single one. And to me, LeBron is the greatest of all time. Now, you might have a difference in opinion there, Koki. All right. We're not going to do that battle just in case you do. But Look, I said what I said. LeBron's the greatest of all time. Now we're moving on to the next subject. We're good?
Well, look, I'll tell you this. I have the utmost respect for LeBron James. I've been a fan of his since he was in high school, and that hasn't wavered, once since. With that said, I don't even know who the real GOAT is. I'll leave it at that.
Look, we're gonna have to return to that conversation for sure. But anyhow, look, man, let's switch gears and talk a bit about real estate, man. You have been doing big business in the DC market for I guess it's close
18.
to 6. Yeah. Wow. It's been that long. Okay.
Yep.
And so, your experience is obviously is clear, but before we get to that particular part of your career, let's talk about when you first started in business. What was that like?
All right, so let's go back to 2006, and if you recall at the time, the real estate market across the country was very hot.
Yep.
And a lot of things in my life have happened through the game of basketball, and getting into real estate was similar. And so a friend of mine who I was playing in a men's league with at the time, he was about 30 years old. He was telling me about how he was about to retire from real estate. And I'm like, man, you're only 30 years old, and I'm 23 at the time, and I have like no money. I would love to get into real estate and figure out how to invest and how to support clients, et cetera. And so he helped me get licensed in real estate. And my first year in the industry, I thought I was going to come right into it and start selling houses left and right, make a ton of money. And I sold 2 houses my first year, and I made $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, this is not at all what I had anticipated getting into the market, which was already hot. And at the time, the market was starting to shift a little bit, right, going into 07 and 08 before the crash. And that actually helped me out significantly because a lot of my clients were first-time buyers who were trying to get into the market. We're now able to get closing costs paid for, get assistance from sellers, and that helped me start to build a clientele and portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
The second way that I got business was actually from the sport and health club that I belonged to, where I played basketball 4 times a week there. And the guys who played in the middle of the day were attorneys, doctors, sports agents. My good friend Jamal, who works for the Minnesota Vikings, who's been a great client for a very long time. And so that helped me start to build contacts, build relationships, build confidence over time. But it was a very, very slow start. I always make that very clear to people that took time to get really into the business, and then build a foundation, and then from there build a team, et cetera, and then have success in the future.
That is interesting, man. And so you talk about that first year being that challenging year. It's challenging for everybody, quite frankly. But what made you not switch gears, pivot and go in a different direction and say, what, it's, $7,000 ain't going to cut it. I mean,
Right.
Why not go and do something else?
Sure. There was 2 things that kept me in it. The first was that I was actually enjoying the process, right? So enjoying learning about the business, enjoying doing, prospecting activities, lead generation, contacting folks, understanding that it's not about trying to get a sale today, right? It's about getting to know people, being a resource to them over time. And then in 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years or longer, when they need you or they have somebody in their network who needs you, they will then reach out. So that part of the process I enjoyed. And the second part is that I had faith. I had faith that if I followed the footsteps of my mentors, my manager, what they were presenting to me, and told me that, hey, if you do these things, you will have success, then I knew that eventually it would come around. And later on, I read a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. He wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And there's one quote in the book that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'll never forget this quote, is that success is a natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. So once I read that, and I was like, wow, so if I can figure out the steps to success in anything, whether it's real estate, it's in basketball, sports, it's in leadership, if I can do it consistently over time, that success is the only option. And so I
Mm-hmm.
knew it was only a matter of time before my real estate business, got some traction, took off, and then really built some massive success from there.
Koki, you hit on a point that has been a common theme on this podcast since the day I started it, man, and that was relationships building. The fact that you were okay with that process, you liked that process, you enjoyed just building and cultivating those relationships, and whether it worked out, you know, that week or a couple of years from now, they didn't make you a difference. But now that is, I would assume, the basis or the foundation of your business.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it's a foundation of life when you think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
With your family, with your church, with your work, everything you do revolves around relationships, and everything you do, you're also involved with the team.
Mm-hmm.
People always talk about individual sports, whether it's golf, swimming, tennis. Those are not individual sports. I mean, you have coaches, you have trainers, you have folks who are assisting you along the way. So you're always with other people, right? Creating opportunities for yourself to have success. And I've always had that mindset that I can do things a lot better when I surround myself with people who can support me, and I can support them as well.
As an athlete, you were an athlete. You have been an athlete your entire life, and now you have the honor of coaching younger people as well and helping them develop to become the best athlete and people that they can become. But talk a little bit about your experience as an athlete and how that has in fact transitioned into business.
Yes. So growing up, I played every sport you could imagine: football, basketball. Played baseball for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
lacrosse, soccer.
You play lacrosse?
Yeah, yeah. I
Get
played
out of
lacrosse.
here.
Yeah, I played lacrosse for
I
4 years.
wanted to play lacrosse. I never got a chance to play it. I've never played it in my life.
Lacrosse is a great sport. It's funny. I think it's very similar to basketball, right?
Okay.
With the moves, crossovers, the in and outs and stuff that you do with the stick, setting
Yep.
screens, a lot of passing, a lot of movement and motion.
Hmm.
And the number one thing that I think I learned from sports is that you will get out of the sport what you are willing to put into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And there's right now, well, I'll talk about coaching in a second, but growing up in the game of basketball, I developed over time from just practicing all the time. We didn't have trainers back in the day. We
Yep.
didn't have
Yep.
the Instagram, contact so and so, work out with them a couple times a week. Now we just found our friends, went to the park, and we just balled. We just
Mm-hmm.
balled. We had to work in our shop. We worked in our shop by ourselves, work on some moves by yourself. I worked out in the basement all the time. I spent a lot of time and hours trying to perfect the craft and trying to improve my skills so that I could play and play at high school level, play in college. And the beauty of my development through basketball is that I played for three of the best coaches in basketball history. Three legends in their own
Mm-hmm.
right. And so I learned a ton from them
Mm-hmm.
that has filtered all the way through my life. It's filtered through work, and now I'm trying to give that back to the kids that have the opportunity to coach and to help them develop, not only their basketball skills but also their mental skills as well.
Mm-hmm. That idea, that concept of practice, like and you mentioned it a couple of times. How huge is that? Just and it's not just sport, it's in business as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's how often are you practicing, communicating a certain way? How often are you practicing learning about this particular type of construction? How often are you practicing? I mean, did you find yourself also applying that same level of practice into your business?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm one who would take every real estate class that the office offered, talking to all the agents, asking questions, doing role plays on different scenarios. because the more that you can practice things, the more you have it in your mind, the more of a habit it becomes. Then when you're in that scenario with the client and you ask questions or have to support them in a certain way, you feel very comfortable because you've already been there before, right? You've already had the same scenario, you've already addressed it, and you have different solutions for it, and so now you can easily put it into what you're giving to a client. And so I think practice is very important. I also believe that it's one thing that we as professionals sometimes forget about. You've been doing it for 18 years, for a long period of time, have all this experience. I don't need to practice.
Right.
That's not true. You still have to perfect your craft. Things change, markets change, the landscape alters over time. So you have to continually practice and understand that the way clients receive information, the way clients learn, the way clients are looking at the market, that also evolves over time as well. So practice is truly paramount in our business.
I love that. Funny story. So one day I'm at home, right? This is years ago. And I'm in a room and I got the door closed. Well, it wasn't completely closed, but it was kind of closed. And so I'm in there and I'm practicing. I don't know what script it was. It was a script. And so Koki, I'm sounding a certain way. I'm like motioning. So I think I'm by myself, right? And so you know how it is when you're by yourself and you're doing stuff like you're like all the way into it. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so my wife, like, apparently she had been watching for some time. And then Tammy finally opens the door and says, "What are you doing?" And you know how you just got to... You know how you just stop and you like, you like got that little embarrassed look on. Oh, it was great. It was priceless. I wish exactly. I wish we had that on video because I said I share that with my team all the time because that was, in my view, one of the reasons why, I felt that helped me. I felt that really helped me to gain confidence, to feel like I knew what I was talking about when I didn't know a darn thing, or I knew very little. I think that was the better way to put it. And it was just a matter of time before you gain that experience. Right. And now you understand why you're saying what it is you're saying, because sometimes you're just saying something. But when you understand the why behind it, that is the piece that brings it all together.
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that is, so I think it was about a year and a half ago. So my team tried to do different things throughout the course of the year to bond together, but also to enhance what we're doing in business. Right now we're reading a book together by Joe Dispenza, how to break the habit of being yourself. Okay. One thing we did about a year and a half ago,
that's the name of it, How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself?
Correct.
Okay.
So one thing we did, which was very powerful, was we went through the 10 speeches of Toastmasters together as a group. And so basically, we all got the manual, purchased that through Toastmasters. And then each week we had to present a speech to the group. And so it started from the very first speech, which is simply a bio of yourself, 2 to 3 minute speech, relatively easy because you know yourself very well. It then goes into different topics and having to do research, prepare a presentation. And when you think about it, in real estate, we are always presenting. Talking to clients on the phone, and it's a new client. They're interviewing us from the first phone call. How do we respond to the questions they ask on the spot? How are we delivering information to them? How are we preparing for the meeting that we're going to have with them next week? And going through the process of Toastmasters as a group was amazing because all of us improved our speaking skills and presenting skills significantly. So I'd recommend that to really anybody. It doesn't matter if you're in real estate, if you're a teacher, if you're a coach. It's important to have strong skills and know how to communicate to people to deliver messages that you want to deliver to them. Sometimes it must be persuasive. Other times it needs to be direct. But this will walk you through, different aspects of presentations.
I love that. Yeah, man. Toastmasters, I swear by it. It's I took it earlier in my career but I never thought about, bringing that into the fold for the entire team. But that makes a heck of a lot of sense. That's real good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's let's dive deep into DC real estate, man. You guys have a very robust market, and it's interesting. While I was there, I tried my best to, hit as many neighborhoods as I could, but I mean, it's just such a big place. I didn't even know where I was going. I'm just like driving, But, talk a little bit about that market. Right now, what is you guys' average price point in DC right now? Average sales price point right now?
Sure. So in DC proper,
Okay.
the city limits, you're looking at an average price point just over $600,000,
Okay.
and that's going to vary significantly depending on where you are in the city, whether you're in Upper Northwest and more of a single family populated area, or if you're in Southwest, which is more of a high end condo market. Some row homes there, but you're going to find very, very few single family homes. And then Southeast, you have your Capitol Hill and Hill East, Eastern Market area, and across the river you have Anacostia. The neighborhoods differ so much, and schools, of course, drive price in a lot of the neighborhoods. And my team specifically, our average sale price is just over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to note is that we sell in Maryland, DC, and Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So it requires 3 different licenses. People think, well, that's crazy. It's such a huge area, but we mainly sell within the Beltway, and the Beltway of 495, covers a small portion of Montgomery County, Maryland, where I grew up, and it covers Prince George's County as well. And that's a neighboring county. It covers the entire city, which is a small city, although it can take you time to get across the city because of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Virginia, areas like Alexandria, Arlington, that are closer, very close to the city, we cover as well.
And I do recall agents talking quite a bit about the differences between each market, mainly DC, Maryland, Virginia. There are some details that it's important to know
Sure.
when you're going across those lines. Can you talk a little bit about that, just in general terms?
Yeah, I mean, in general terms, I'll give you a few differences. The first is going to be property taxes and transfer taxes. And so when you're looking to purchase a property, you're going to have to pay taxes to that municipality, and it's more expensive for you to purchase in DC when it comes to transfer taxes than it is in Virginia and Maryland. So that's a very important consideration for people when they're looking to buy real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Second piece is going to be income taxes. Income taxes as well, more expensive in DC, and so people will take that into consideration as well. Also working with a lot of professional athletes, many of them who, for instance, might play for the Wizards. For example, they may decide to reside in Virginia because the income tax is going to be significantly less than it is in the city. So those are all important things to know. So when you can advise a client to help them evaluate that with their accountant or whoever their financial professional is as they're deciding on where to live for the next year or several years. And then there's contractual differences in terms of the contract that we use. So in DC and in Montgomery County, we use the same contract.
Okay.
Virginia has their own contract. So there's different laws, different nuances within the deadlines and timeframes and that go along with those contracts. So again, important to know the differences so that you can advise your client when they're searching in two areas, because a lot of times we have clients looking in Maryland and DC, or Maryland and Virginia, or DC and Virginia. So the realtor needs to know these differences to advise their client properly.
What's the condo market like there? Is it a market that's on the up? Is it on the down, on the decline? What does that look like right now?
The condo market has been soft. Ever since COVID hit, in 2020, we saw the condo market decline significantly. And
why is that?
Yep. So the main reason that we saw a decline in the condo market is, if you recall, in the first year or so of COVID, people wanted to kind of get out of the very densely populated areas,
Okay.
moving out to the suburbs.
Yep.
And so we saw this, somewhat of a, mass exodus of people moving from downtown to the burbs. They want to have, a house now with a yard, space in the home to work from home because they could do that, and they were forced to do that for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So that created a higher level of inventory in the condo space, and the demand for condos was relatively low. And so now we're seeing the after effects of that. With still relatively high levels of inventory, and while the demand has picked up for condos, it has not increased enough to support the level of supply that we have in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Okay. So if I'm house shopping in the DC market, DC, Maryland, when I say DC, I'm kind of talking about, all of the surrounding.
DMV.
Yeah. What are some of the hot neighborhoods that, I might want to consider?
Yep. So let's just say that, you're moving to the area and you have a couple kids and they're going to be in school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're probably going to want to have a single family home, a little bit of a yard, and some areas that is our connection still good?
Yeah. We're perfect.
Like you froze a second. Okay. So some areas that people consider in DC are going to be areas like Chevy Chase, DC, AU Park, American University, maybe Spring Valley, Cleveland Park, depending on their budget.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be more of the higher end. Georgetown, more of the higher end. Also areas like Brightwood, Petworth, which are in the city, but they're not right downtown. It feels a little more suburban, but still easy to get around the city. In Montgomery County, there's going to be areas like Bethesda, Silver Spring, Chevy Chase, Rockville, all areas that are very vibrant, very diverse, diverse neighborhoods. Gaithersburg, for example, in Montgomery County was the number one most diverse area in the country last year. And these are areas that are all along the 270 corridor. Again, relatively convenient. Lots of nearby amenities, easy access to parks. And then on the Virginia side, you're looking at Arlington, Alexandria. Again, you're close to the city, close to amenities. You're not too far away from the core of what's happening in DC.
Are you finding that some of for your athletes, for your professional athletes, are you finding that many of them are taking the opportunity to actually invest in real estate outside of their primary?
Yep. Yeah. So I think DC is one of the best markets in the country to invest in. And personally, I think clients I've worked with, not enough of them have invested in this area. When they're coming here, getting traded, playing for the Wizards, for example, the tenure there is not very long.
Right.
It could be 7 to 8 months, might be a year or two, and so they're not thinking of planting roots there. And in my opinion, you don't have to plant roots. You can rent for that period of time, but it also is important too to consider investing in an area that may realize some real appreciation. DC market has done over the last several years. So it's definitely a major point that I try to bring up to all of my clients, especially the athletes, that if you have an opportunity to invest in a strong market like DC, you should certainly consider that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just DC. It just makes sense. I mean, it's real estate is in demand, period, and it's always going to be in demand, especially there. I mean, you got so many darn people. Where they gonna live? Right. But I have really been on this quest to help more athletes learn about, how else can you start to provide a cash flow for yourself? How else can you start to provide, wealth for yourself outside of your current income and whatever else you have going on, because as we know, that's a short life lived.
Very short. Very short. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. You know, a lot of athletes, they don't consider the fact that, hey, I might only have 2, 3, 4 more years left of earning this type of income, before I have to now figure out how to sustain income for the next, 30 years of my life, 30 years plus. And so, of course, investing in real estate is a phenomenal avenue to take advantage of, to create cash flow and create long-term wealth for themselves and their families outside of their professional salaries.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your involvement in NAR, National Association of Realtors. Talk a little bit about that. I guess it's not just the National Association of Realtors, but also your local association you have been very much involved with.
Yes. So my involvement with the Realtor Association began in 2008. After getting the 30 Under 30 award from Realtor Magazine, which is an amazing honor and something that I leveraged for a very long time. I was then asked to come out to Chicago, one for the photo shoot for that, which was a really cool experience. But then to go out to NAR and attend a leadership summit, and then from there I began my involvement, with the local association, serving on the community service committee. I did that for several years. Also served on the Rookie Society as well, which is supporting newer agents in the business. And then that then filtered into different committees that I was being involved with at the local association, and then being asked to step up and be on the board. Ultimately, ended up serving as president of GCAR, the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, in 2019. And along the way, I was involved with different committees within NAR as well, from the risk management to fair housing, from strat planning, you name it. And that culminated with serving as the liaison for member services under then President Charlie Oppler. And so, I was super involved for a long period of time within NAR and within GCAR as well. And then 2 years ago, I decided to really scale back my involvement so I could focus more on work, focus more on my family, and also focus more on coaching basketball as well.
Well, look, I mean, you've done so much, Koki. I mean, I think the next natural question is, when are you going to run for office? Perhaps, if you're looking to make a formal announcement today on this podcast, I'm good with that, by the way. When are we going to get you running for something, sir?
Right. Well, Steve, look, I'll tell you, I have received that question many times, and something that I've thought about many times as well. And there is a reason why most of the presidents that you see serve are older, right? Their kids are through school, high school, et cetera. They're not having to go to games and whatnot. And and for me, that was a big piece of the consideration was, if I moved forward now, in that step and ended up, in that path, it would be, very challenging to serve at that level and want to, do right by all the members of the association. Lots of travel involved with that, and I would sacrifice, I would sacrifice a lot, on this end with my family.
Sure.
And at the time, I'm just like, I'm not ready to take that on.
Well, look, if that day ever comes up again, you let me know.
All right. I will.
You are so involved in the community. You're involved with youth sports, your philanthropy. It's very obvious that you care immensely about the community and the legacy that you're leaving behind. Talk a little bit about, what got you into coaching? What was that initial spark for you?
Yeah, the initial spark for coaching, I believe it was 2 years after maybe 3 or 4 years after I finished college, and a friend was coaching at at the Bullis School in Potomac, Maryland, and said, hey, you know, they need support with their JV program there. Would you consider helping out? And I was like, absolutely. You know, I've always enjoyed the process of helping others learn.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like when I was in college, I was a tutor, you know, in college. And, you know, so I was like, you know, this could be a fun opportunity. And so I coached there for 3 years and had a blast, you know, helped a lot of kids, you know, learn a game of basketball the right way. And then I got busy with life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was more serious with my now wife at the time, and business started getting busier. And I was like, oh, you know what? I can't coach, you know, 6 days a week. I need to now scale back and focus on work. And looking back now, I think that was one of the worst decisions that I ever made, because I then took off from coaching, I think almost 10 years before getting back into it. And one of my previous bosses who was, you know, similar, he was, you know, very philanthropic. He's got to travel all the time. He had a robust business. And one day I asked him, I said, Steve, I was like, you know, you do all these things, you got kids, you got grandkids, like, how do you manage it? And I'll never forget his words. You know, he said, you know, very clearly, he said, Koki, look, he said, in life, no matter how busy you are in life, you will always make time for things that are important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that for about a 10-year span, I didn't do that. So then I got back into coaching. I was coaching my son's AAU team, and it was just a great process. You know, I said to myself, you know, even though these kids are young, if I treat it the same way that, you know, that I was coached in high school and college, they can probably learn a lot more and a lot more faster,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, for example, we start every practice off with a kid reading a quote to the team. So I'll prepare the quote, prepare the practice plan. I'll choose a volunteer. They'll read the quote to the team twice. Everyone claps for them for reading, and then we go into discussion as a group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can't tell me a lot of youth programs that are starting off with focusing on kids reading and then brainstorming together. I'm not you know, directing any of that. Like, they come up with the thoughts and ideas, and it's really powerful to have them, you know, create that community, you know, within themselves. And then we go into practice.
Mm-hmm.
But first, we're going to start from, you know, everyone has a clear mindset. We're getting into practice mode. We're focused on, you know, a quote or a topic, and then we're discussing it. And I'm not sure if you've seen, but every Monday I do Monday morning motivation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so today's is actually going to be about last week's conversation with my team. And the conversation was, you know, rather than you know, give them a quote, was, you know, a lot of the kids experience anxiety before games. A little nervous, which is normal. You know, we talk all the time. You know, it's normal to have those feelings, and it's important to embrace those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so the discussion point was, when we're feeling anxious or we're nervous or going into, you know, a test or, you know, whatever it is, and we're feeling a little uneasy, what is it that we can control in those situations?
Mm-hmm.
We had 10 minutes. The kids just thinking, boom. Then they wrote down on the board, and they came up with, I think, with about 10 items. And those items are helpful in all aspects of life, not just sports. Mm-hmm. And they realize that. And so I'm going to share that, you know, today on the Monday Morning Motivation.
I love that.
And it's very powerful. And when you can help kids realize that what they're doing in practice, all the sprinting they're doing, learning the drills, work on their shot, you know, every practice, you know, working together as a unit, that is impacting their life every single day outside of the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to me, is that feeling that you get when you see it, when you see them understanding that, hey, I have a good shot right now, but I know my teammate has a better shot. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pass it to him every single time, right? Mm-hmm. When you can create that selflessness within them, again, that filters it into everything. And I'll share, you know, one of the items that a kid wrote down, which to me was profound. what can you control? Effort, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But he wrote honesty.
Wow.
It's like, when you have 11, 12-year-old kids giving you the foundation of life, and they get it, that's powerful. It's really powerful.
Incredibly.
So, I've enjoyed coaching, enjoyed giving back, but I'll say that even before that, my parents, helped establish, that foundation with me and my siblings early on, of supporting your community, doing community service projects. From when I was a little kid, we used to do the Christmas in April program through Fannie Mae, where we go out and go to a home in DC that needed paint and work and landscaping, et cetera, and help support that homeowner, because they didn't have the funds to take care of it, and just realizing that it is our life duty to support people in our community,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And expecting nothing in return, but knowing that positive energy that you're putting out in the world will come back to you in some form or fashion at some point in the future. We don't know when or what it'll be, but it will come back. And so it's important to always give back and always support causes that are important to you. And for me, that's youth and sports and education. And so those are things that I focus on and support.
Wow. Koki Adasi. Man, look, man, first, it's just an honor to know you. And everything that you're doing, man, the work that you're doing in the DC area is extraordinary. And I'm at a loss for words, but man, it has been good having you on, my brother. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Thank you as well. It has been a true blast for me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, my man. Well, I'll see you soon, sir. You be good.
All right. Have a good one, Steve.
Can't stop, we can't lose. You can't win if you snooze. So do more and say less. So get up and let's work and be the best. Yeah, you're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast. Yeah, the Steve Gunner Podcast. You're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast. Get up, it's the Steve Gunner Podcast.